Hi, I'm Sam from Interface with Bitrix24 Gold Partners. In today's Bitrix24 demonstration, I'm going to be presenting to you the new CRM permission functionality within Bitrix24. So first of all, we'll start off by comparing the old UI with the new UI for our permission settings. So you'll see it's a lot cleaner and easier to navigate. We'll then create several roles and see how we can assign those different permission actions to the role. And we'll see how we can then also use the new search functionality to easily drill down to analyze the permissions across different roles and across the entities within the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so let's jump into our Bitrix24 system. And first of all, let's just take a look at the old UI for access permissions. So within the areas here, we can see what we would do is we will create different roles inside the system. So that's not changed. You create roles as you do now. But to configure the permission settings on the role, you would have to go into the specific role page. So here we've gone into the administrator's role page. So across the top, we would have the different permission actions and then the entities here down the left-hand side. And we would then go into here and configure the permissions for each role on the system. So you're not able to compare the permissions easily within the CRM here. You would have to now come out of this role and then go into the next role to set those up. And so it's very difficult to compare and set up the permissions if you're going to have multiple roles within the CRM. But now we have a new UI for access permissions. So let's just take a look now at the new functionality. So as you can see here on this page, it's a lot cleaner to set up permissions. So we can see across the top here the different roles that we are creating for our access levels in the CRM. So first of all, we can now compare the permission settings across different roles very easily within the system. I can see all of the actions that have been set up across the 4 roles here. And then on the left-hand side, we can see all of the different entities within the CRM, and we can then drill down and see the different actions that are set up and associated to each role inside the system. So it's a lot simpler of a UI to be able to navigate those roles inside the system. So when you create a new Bitrix24 account, there will be 2 predefined roles already set up within the Bitrix24 CRM system. So that would be your administrator and manager's role. So you can use those as a framework to help you, or we can create new roles inside the system. So if I click on the plus button here, that then opens up the new role template. And so first of all, we can give this role a title. Okay, so let's say here what we want to do. We've got a North Area Manager's role. So let's create now a South Area Manager's role as well. Okay, so that's how we can create the role. And then we can start to configure the permission settings across the different entities here. So from contacts, vendors, etc. Now, if you wanted to drill down into a certain area to begin with, then let's say if I wanted to go down into our deals and a specific pipeline, I can then start to configure the access rights. So let's say on read access, I can then turn this on and I can control the level of permission access on the read action block for the South Area Managers. And you can drill down into the individual stages as well of the deal. So that's how we can start to assign access rights on the newly created role that we have set up. But obviously that could be a very time-consuming process that we are managing here inside the system. So a new piece of functionality that we have within the CRM permissions is the ability to clone a role. So this is going to save you significant amount of time than having to manually create those permission actions on each entity of the role. So let's say here, we can see I have my North Area Managers role already set up. If I click into the three dots there now, I can click on the clone, and that is now going to clone that North Area Managers role. So actually, let's say here, I'm going to delete that South Area Managers that we've just started to create. And because the Area Manager role, I want to copy that, all I can have to do now is I can rename the clone and then call this the South Area Managers role. And then the permissions have been copied across from the North Area Managers. So that's saved me a huge amount of time than having to manually go into each entity and configure the permissions there. And now I've created that role, I can then assign users to that role. So you'll have different search tools here. So from your recent items, departments, work groups, and also user groups inside the system. So I can then assign here, let's say I'm going to assign this to the sales and marketing team. So I can then add those users to the South Area Managers role, and they will be notified when they have been assigned that new role inside the system. So that's how we can start to assign those permissions on our roles. And what we can do here, if we have lots of roles set up here, if I'm wanting to compare one role to another to analyze the permissions, what we can do inside here is we can show and hide certain roles inside the system. So again, this is new functionality that we have enabled. So let's say if I solely want to compare here the administrator with the chief executive role, I can turn off the other roles inside the system here. And now I can just compare the administrator and chief executive permissions. So it's a lot easier to navigate and analyze the permissions inside the system. And once I've done that analysis, I can then select again the other departments that we were searching through, and you can search through like so. Okay, so that is how we can show and hide certain roles in the system. And another new feature we have is the search tool here at the top of the page. So with this functionality, we can drill down into specific entities. So let's say if I wanted to look solely at our deals entity, I can drill down here so I can see specific pipelines, which you can concatenate here. So I can see the permission configuration on each individual deal. Now, we could take that a step further, and let's say I just wanted to look at a specific stage of our deals. So I can search through here and just look here at the demonstration stage and analyze the actions across that stage and what the permission configuration is across those roles. So it's very simple now using the new CRM permissions to drill down into that permission configuration that you have set up. This will save you a huge amount of time compared to the old CRM permissions. And it's not just entities or stages. We can also filter and search based on the different CRM actions as well. So let's say, for example, here, if I wanted to look at the export action, I can search based on that action, and then I can see the export action here across the different entities. So from our contacts, companies, leads, and deals, and I can then see what permission control each role has inside the system there. So that's how we can use the new CRM permission functionality. And one additional feature we now have access to is the ability to manage those access permissions within the specific entities of the CRM. So previously, in the old permissions, you would have to come into the permission settings, so going into settings, access permissions, and the CRM. But now what we can do, if you have the access rights, I can go into any of the entities. So here, for example, I'm in the deal pipeline. I can go into the settings here, and we now have an area called access permissions. So I can click on here, and now I can configure the permissions on that specific area of the CRM that I am working in. So it's really streamlined the permission functionality on Bitrix24. So that is an overview of the new CRM permissions within Bitrix24. If you have any questions, please do contact us at sales@intraface.com.